For Sunday, January 13th, you've found the Georgia Gang. And topping our agenda today, the lights go on at the state capitol this week. We're going to see major voting changes. We just don't know what kind. And the city of Atlanta moves to rein in those pesky scooters. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
We're glad you could be with us. This is the week that all eyes are on the state capitol from now until March or April. And the Georgia Gang's Lori Geary is here to lead us off with what's coming up.
Well, Dick, House Speaker David Ralston's annual preview of the upcoming legislative session gave us a clear view of his priorities. But perhaps more importantly, the issues not on his agenda. Those include an overhaul of Georgia's election laws and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act known as RFRA. Republican House Speaker David Ralston may be at odds with Governor-elect Brian Kemp on the issue of RFRA. Ralston called it a solution in search of a problem, but on the campaign trail, Kemp vowed to sign a narrowly drawn bill that mirrors the federal law.
My view is that, this is a much different world than it was in 1993 or whenever President Clinton signed that.
On the issue of education, Ralston said no one is against giving teachers what they deserve. However, he said he has concerns over a $5,000 pay raise promised by Kemp.
There are different ways that we can get to where we want to go. One way may be to graduate a pay increase over a period of time so as to sort of mitigate the hit to the budget.
Among Ralston's top priorities, school safety, mental health, and rural health care. When it comes to election laws and massive reforms after a divisive gubernatorial election, Ralston had a not-so-subtle message for former House Minority Leader Stacey Abrams.
Folks start trying to look for reasons that things happen, and sometimes, somebody just wins and somebody comes in second. And that's kind of hard to accept sometimes, but it's true.
Ralston said he's looking forward to taking a look at the recommendations from a study committee on replacing Georgia's voting machines, which as of now have no paper trail. Dick.
Thank you, Lori. And I think I'll begin right there with the voting machines. And I say that because Governor-elect Kemp's Safe Commission gave its final report this past week. And it seems to be a question of whether we spend $100 million or $30 million. Mm-hmm. Is that the way you read the findings of the commission? Phil, what do you think? We have to have a paper mark or a paper that's marked by a computer?
Well, what the study commission wanted was a electronic paper ballot, and of course they wanted an audit trail. And the question now will be what vendor and what type of software, and to your point, what cost will this be? So this is a big decision for the new governor and the legislature.
Well, one of the things that Secretary-elect Raffensperger said is that he knows that we have dated voting machines. I think it's been 16 years since we've had a new voting machine. So he actually came out and said, okay, we need to get new voting machines. But there was some pushback from some commission members, particularly Democrats. And if you look at the public comment section, Dick, I mean, all the residents who actually came to speak during this hearing were in support of a hand-marked ballot, some type of hand-marked paper ballot to basically try to ensure that the votes are being cast properly. And so I think I agree with Phil. I think this is going to be a robust debate for probably in the second, third week of the legislature.
Well, Lori, you and I try to explain that. One is the old-fashioned way. We're going back to the 18th century. You just fill in a bubble. And the other is you vote on a computer, right, and it prints out a computer-marked piece of paper. Am I explaining that properly?
You are, and it's the way that several states have also moved. But I just don't see us going back in time to actually, filling out and hand marking a ballot, a paper ballot. I think we're in this frame of technology where somebody can have a secure system. Somebody can come up with a secure system. I just don't see us going back in time.
I agree with you on that. I think marking the paper ballot can be just as confusing. Let's remember the election of George Bush back in 2000.
Right.
That was crazy. They couldn't, the hanging chads. We don't want to go back to that for sure.
And then one little tiny part of this. Brian Kemp named as one of his top aides a guy who's a lobbyist for one of the vendors, yes, Charles Harper.
That's
and
right.
Was that a good move at this point, given the fact the Democrats are have been pounding Kemp for 2 years over the way he handles elections? I don't know. It just
Well,
doesn't look right.
it may be that he would have to recuse himself from any decision making, obviously, on these vendor selections, and that ought to be done right away.
And I know Chuck Harper. I mean, he's a good man. He's been friends with the governor-elect for many, many decades, and so he sort of anticipated that this may be an issue. And I think, to Phil's point, not only is he going to have to recuse himself, I think he's taking an extra step in this sort of era of full transparency to make sure that he doesn't have any more dealings with these vendors. But no, I think good decision. He's going to be a great deputy chief of staff for this governor-elect.
Now, to wrap up Lori's piece, it is pretty apparent to me, and I think to all of us, that David Ralston is now going to be the brake on social legislation at the state capitol. Brian Kemp promised a lot of that, though reasonably, I think. We don't really know where Jeff Duncan goes on a lot of those things because the lieutenant governor is brand new. And Ralston was sort of in the role of the old speaker, Tom Murphy, saying, well,
Traffic
I think
cop.
we'll put the brakes on this one. Is that how you read it?
It was. I think he was also a realist in some ways because Speaker Ralston said, you know, on RFRA, no, we're not going back there. It's such a divisive topic and it doesn't take the state in any forward capacity. And then he also said, you know, on the teacher pay raises, well, that's a great idea. And, you know, we wish we could give them everything that they deserve. Not sure if it's in the budget. And maybe it's a gradual phase in.
Which is
That looks like a 4-year phase in to me, but
if at all, we'll see, because that
well, I
was-
think they'll get $5,000 pay raises. 50,000, maybe.
Yes.
$5,000 pay raises.
Let me go back to the dynamic of how this works in the legislature. We've all watched Democrat-controlled legislatures and Republican-controlled, and in the last week or so, in March, you're going to see between the head of the Senate, Jeff Duncan, and also the Speaker, David Ralston, horse trading, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some bills will pass. What do you want? What do you want? This is how the deals are cut. So I'm not sure what will happen on the airport authority, for example, or RFRA, or guns, or, you know, the teacher pay raise. I think that probably there'll be a phase-in. I would agree with you.
Well, I think the supermajority is gone in the House. I mean, they still have a majority.
It doesn't make any difference. The Republicans still control the
It does make a
committees.
difference because look at the election results of 2018, when you had almost half of the state voting for the Democratic Party.
Well, as you know, in the
ticket.
legislature, you're right. I don't disagree with the gains the Democrats made, but the committees and the rules committees, as you well know, control the legislation and the flow. So that's where the Republicans still have their clout.
But real quick, Speaker Ralston, you know, I had a chance to see him this week. You know, they were all having these fundraisers before they go back to the session. And I think what he was also saying, guys, is that he lost a lot of members, and he knows that there was some districts, Republican districts, where these members are historically getting upwards of 60%. They got in the mid-50s and low 50s. And so he's really trying to protect his House members and say, hey, let's not begin with RFRA, because these folks have got to go back to their districts and try to get
Well, and
reelected.
many of the moderating Republicans, I wouldn't call them moderate, they were conservative, but the more moderating Republicans got beat, got wiped out in the northern suburbs. So it's now the Brian Kemp's rural representatives, and that's why I think Ralston's an important break, because he's from Blue Ridge. And he can control things a little bit.
And I think, just change the subject a little bit, I think one of the biggest fights that we will see under the Gold Dome this year is over the certificate of need with the hospitals.
Yep.
I think that's really brewing. I think you're going to see a lot of pushback by the hospitals and the hospital associations versus some of the Republicans who are really kind of pushing for a change to what I think is an antiquated law.
Yep, and I would agree with you, and we'll be discussing that, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. I wanted to squeeze in another topic, but we're not going to. We'll just have to come back and discuss new turmoil at the State Ethics Commission. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
We haven't heard much from our Georgia Ethics Commission in the last couple of years, but this week, real quickly, Stephen Ritter, the man who was brought there to calm the waters and straighten out that commission, who by all accounts has been doing a good job, is now being accused of improper workforce behavior. And the new chairman, Jake Evans, who has actually been a panelist on the Georgia Gang, Jake Evans is undertaking to look into these accusations unstated against Stephen Ritter. He said he didn't know anything about it. What do you think? Where are we going with this?
Well, you would hope that these allegations are not true. And
we don't even know what they are.
And I would like to hear more from Stephen Ritter when he said, you know, I haven't seen the allegations and that this was puzzling to him, but the committee found enough alleged evidence to suspend him with pay pending the outcome of this investigation.
Well, yes, and obviously you can't have a top ethics officer in the state being accused of being unethical, so it's a cloud that has to be removed quickly by that commission.
Looks to me like the commission did that. They moved very quickly.
Too much Home Shopping Network watching
and
on the computer.
This is...
Okay, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think it was Home Shopping Network.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Alexis. Now, to be more serious, Governor Deal this week was chosen as a Regents Professor for the university system. Phil, those are your friends there at the Regents. He will get paid $120,000 to teach, not only at the University of Georgia, but at the other large universities.
Right.
That's altogether a good deal, time-honored. Zell Miller did a similar thing.
I think there's 10 slots for Regents professors. I'm going to call some of the regents. I think we all ought to be teaching government. I think a former governor should be teaching political science and government. I don't have a problem with that. I might have structured it differently and not given him a straight salary for 3 years, but I don't have a problem with him teaching what he knows best.
But eyebrows did go up when it was announced that Governor Deal, former governor, well, still Governor Deal, and until next week, and his longtime aide, Chris Riley, are opening a lobbying shop. Now, I know that some of you lobby, and I'm sure you don't welcome the competition, but I look kind of askance at that. I don't remember a former governor going into the lobbying business. Chris Riley, good for him.
Yes.
He's been a terrific operative at the state capitol. But maybe it's just the governor's name's on the shingle. What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think they reported in the article in the AJC that Governor Deal will be there kind of in a name base only, but look, he will be there to consult.
But his name will be there.
Yeah, his name will be there. So I think he also has some ethics rules as far as, like, you know, himself actually lobbying members of the legislature. But no, look, I think this is it's a good move for them. I mean, I am a registered state lobbyist, and yes, having Chris Riley open up a firm with Governor Deal, I think it not only is a bad thing, I think it shows that there's some opportunities to collaborate there, because Lori and others can tell you, and I know Phil talked to a lot of other lobbyists, is that in this new era where you have Democrats and Republicans attempting to work together, there's a lot of firms that are coming together to try to have a sort of a bipartisan approach. So again, I think that the governor would have never done anything to put his reputation in jeopardy, and I think Chris Riley is going to figure out a legal and ethical way to effectively lobby the state.
And I talked to Chris Riley yesterday, and I think also he's very concerned, and the governor's very concerned about, you know, their legacy, which a lot of it is criminal justice reform, and they want to see that through. So I also think it just kind of depends on the clients that they take. But I don't picture Governor Deal walking around the Capitol with a lobbyist badge on. I mean, let's be realistic.
Well,
and the governor's going out
right.
6 months because he's having back surgery. So what's amazing to me is he's 76 years old, and he is nowhere near retiring.
And you know, just to segue on Lori's point and Theron's point, you know, it's perfectly legal to have general consulting. You just don't want to be in the halls of the Capitol saying I'm in favor of HB 102. That's lobbying, and that's why you have to register.
And especially when he's going to be on the payroll of the university system.
Right. So you can do general consulting, but you cannot be down there lobbying for or against something.
Well, turning now to the city of Atlanta, where there was a lot of news this week. First of all, and I don't want to spend much time on this, a coalition of victim groups are going to protest the Super Bowl over Confederate memorials and monuments. I think that's all we need to say. They're going to do it the Saturday before the Super Bowl.
I think they'll be ignored with everyone going to see the Super Bowl.
I think they'll get a lot of attention because the national press loves this.
Well, let me say they should
issue.
be ignored then. Okay.
Okay, but Lori's right, and that's my point. You know, we'll have programs like Face the Nation, I see, are going to originate here in Atlanta, and they won't miss a chance to do that. They'll show Stone Mountain and all that, and make hay out of it.
And you know, just a quick footnote, it's kind of sad. You know, under federal law, Confederate veterans are considered U.S. veterans, and there ought to be respect for the fallen of any cause. And so I think when they're going after memorials and cemeteries, that's outrageous.
I agree with you, but that's in the future.
Be quiet.
Well, I know you want to sandblast Stone Mountain, right?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you and Stacey Abrams.
Yeah. Just let it go.
Well,
let's put something else up there. I like that notion that, was it at the Constitution's editorial cartoonist, he put an added Samuel Jackson on a horse.
Hey, I like Sam Jackson.
Well, why not? Samuel Jackson is in every movie ever made.
There you go. There you go. So why not? And he went to Morehouse, so why not?
That's a real historical footnote there. Yeah.
Change with the time.
All right, now.
That's right. New occasions teach new duties. Time makes ancient good uncouth. Go.
All right.
What does that mean?
We need to get to Kwanzaa Hall.
Okay.
The former city councilman, former mayoral candidate, Keisha Lance Bottoms hired a Los Angeles law firm to look into his employment and how it was that he came onto the city payroll the day Kasim Reed left office. And the law firm said it violated the city charter. We knew that. $900 an hour, violated the city charter, and Lori, they didn't talk to Mayor Bottoms, former Mayor Reed, or Human Resources Director Yvonne Yancey, who signed the paperwork. This was some kind of lawyering.
It's infuriating, again, and I looked up this law firm because I wanted to see kind of their background. It's the Brown George Ross law firm. You know what the first line on their website is? The very first line. People come to us because we get results. So how ironic. And $900 an hour, we don't know the total tally yet, but I bet you the city of Atlanta could have hired at least one police officer for that amount of money that they got with having absolutely no answers. And I think everybody looks bad in this. The mayor looks bad because, you know, it was an investigation where nothing came up. Kwanzaa Hall looks bad because he's saying, well, look, I mean, money comes in and out of my campaign accounts, my personal accounts, and I didn't even realize it. And this law firm looks bad.
And why do you go to Los Angeles? I mean, I can see where Atlanta law firms might be disqualified.
Well, and another
Probably
point.
a good firm in Macon could look into
Well,
this.
here's another point: is that $900 an hour they gave the city a discount because they usually charge $1,000 an hour. But if you look, Roy Barnes, who's a former governor of Georgia, also does work for the state when there's a conflict of interest with the Attorney General's office. He charges $250 an hour, and we know that's a big discount for Roy Barnes.
So we criticize the mayor when she don't bring in an independent investigation to look at a very serious matter, right? But then when she brings in a law firm, we criticize her for basically bringing in a law firm.
No. We're criticizing the law firm.
No, hold on. That's what I'm saying.
The law firm's a disgrace.
But then you
What do you do?
criticize.
The right thing.
Hold on, let me finish. I didn't cut you guys off. Don't do that because you know I'm gonna have to respond. But then we criticize the law firm, as Lori just stated, as one of the leading law firms when it comes to this type of investigative report. Legal action. I mean, they are. And so the bottom line is this: she did an investigation. It happened before she got there. She wasn't interviewed because she had nothing to do with it. Her chief of staff, Marva Lewis, wasn't interviewed because they didn't know about it, right? Now, the other two individuals,
but Kasim Reed was not interviewed either.
Well, but my point is that
Kwanzaa was just there for coffee.
the bottom line is that, you know, Kwanzaa Hall served the city honorably as a school board member and as a city council member. And so I just think that the decision has been made. He's no longer employed with Invest Atlanta. So all those critics that wanted to get this man either fired or to resign, they achieved their goal. But I don't think we should sully his name and sully, you know, the mayor's name by doing what she thought was
Well,
right.
it's a little hard to believe the mayor didn't know what was going on. That's
All right,
just
we got to
that's
get
too
out.
far.
We're not criticizing the mayor in this case.
Oh, I
Y'all
will.
just did.
I will.
Y'all just did.
Well, I think she should have demanded answers from the law firm.
Absolutely.
All right, when we come back, actual movement on the Atlanta City Council. It's about those scooters. We're going to try to squeeze it in. Stay with us.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
It is truly a national problem, this proliferation of electric scooters all over the country, especially in the cities where young millennials like to ride them. And they do, I guess, help remove traffic from the road for short haul trips. They solved that last mile problem for MARTA and public transit. So the City Council this week took some action to regulate them, but I'm not sure that it works. Theron, you know the business.
Yeah. So
they have to ride on the streets, not on the sidewalks.
So full disclosure, I represent Lime, and so you have some other companies. I won't give them the free publicity on the show. But look, the Atlanta City Council came together this week and said, look, we got to basically put in some regulations to make it safer and to make it really, you know, not to the point where it's unconstitutional, where they're telling these companies you can't, have these motor scooters here, which is very popular, by the way. Not only are millennials riding them, you'll go through the city of Atlanta, Midtown Atlanta, even in Buckhead, and it's coming your way too, Phil. Get ready. But you'll see adults. You'll see people taking these electric scooters, to lunch and to different meetings. And so while the Atlanta City Council had to do something because they were getting a lot of complaints from constituencies, not because they don't want scooters here, they just want it to be regulated. But stay tuned, Dick. This subject is going to be revisited. Councilman Andre Dickens introduced an amendment that basically will say that the council will have to revisit this in around 90 days. And so I do think, listen, they'll be to be applauded for doing something, but I do think that you got to make sure that it's not breaking any type of legal rules that these companies, one of which Lime, have the right to operate these scooters. We just got to make sure they operate it safely and that pedestrians are not misusing them. And then those folks who misuse them, these companies are identifying these folks and they're taking away their rider privileges.
Now, Athens banned them, right?
Yeah, correct.
And that's where you think in a college town that they'd be the most popular.
Well, the problem is, Theron points out, is the pedestrians and trying to navigate with people, and especially elderly people that can't really get out of the way. And so you're probably going to have to see some arrests. I'm glad they're revisiting this. It's a good first step.
And I wish there was some capacity in the streets of Atlanta to actually have a designated scooter lane, because I'm a little bit uncomfortable of these scooters being in the road and not on the sidewalks. I don't think I would ever ride a scooter on the streets of Atlanta. I would feel very unsafe. But also,
and
you
much
don't
less without a helmet.
Right. Yes, yeah, they're recommending helmets.
Georgia has a no helmet law, and so Lime again, we offer helmets to our people.
I hope you get a raise.
No, we offer to them, and but listen, look, they had to do something. So this is the one time where I want to applaud Council President Felicia Moore and the entire council.
The one time.
I saw her this week, and she said I selectively, congratulate her and point her out. So no, I want to say the council had to do something, but I do think that it's an economic generator for this city. And if you crawl across the nation, I mean, they're everywhere. I was just in Shelby County, Tennessee. I was out on the West Coast. And so people are riding these things.
And they're here to stay.
And they're here to stay.
Let's squeeze in a couple of quick items. Okay. Governor Deal announced that a company called BioIQ will add 500 jobs in Cobb. That's a health insurance kind of a company.
A health IT company.
And Bud Peterson, Dr. Bud Peterson, the president of Georgia Tech, announced his retirement effective in May. There was some controversy in his last years, but I would say that he earned every bit of the $1 million in salary that he was paid, because Georgia Tech is a preeminent research institution in the United States. Anybody disagree with that?
Well, even as a Georgia Bulldog, I have to admit that yes, it is. It's a great school.
Okay. All right. There you go.
All right, when we come back, winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
Your host failed miserably today. There were so many good topics we didn't get to. So that's, as they say in pro football, that's on me. I love that. It's on me. All right, Theron, winners and losers.
All right, my first winner is going to be CEO and General Manager Jeff Parker of MARTA. They had their State of MARTA address this week. Packed house, I think over 500 people there. Had all the people represented, DeKalb, Gwinnett, Cobb was there, at City of Atlanta, all these different people coming together. So big shout out to Jeff Parker. He did a wonderful job. And then on a personal note, Dick, I want to recognize two people who are very close to me. The first one being Mrs. Rena Johnson. She's in Athens, Georgia. She unfortunately passed away this week. She was my neighbor for a long time in the area of Newtown, where I grew up in Athens. And so she was like a mom to me. So definitely want to send my condolences to her and her family. Then the last person is Mrs. Barbara Road-Fox. She was the co-founder of Road-Fox Construction Company. Joy Road-Fox is her daughter, and this is one of the leading construction management companies in the nation, minority owned. And so unfortunately she passed away this week too, so I want to make her a winner.
Phil.
Well, I want to make a winner that $100 million cyber center over in Augusta. The governor was over there, Governor Deal, cut the ribbon. This is a great thing, not just for our state and jobs, but for the nation and national security. And they're going to have a great role with the military and private companies involved. And this was a shocker when I saw this bit of news. I'm going to have to make Dalton, the city of Dalton, a loser. It was a content creator visually did a survey, and it's shockingly the least educated city in the United States. That people are not, over half have not graduated from high school. Only 13% have college degrees. And this shows education reform really still has to stay front and center. I was amazed to see these statistics. Dalton.
That is surprising. All right, Lori, what you got?
We have to mention Governor and Mrs. Deal, outgoing this week, just for their service. And when you have the Atlanta City Council congratulating them for a job well done on criminal justice reform and working across the aisle,
point.
that's a big deal. Also, my loser is the Brown George Ross law firm out of LA that did the Kwanzaa Hall investigation. And Clemson, congratulations to Clemson. I'm a Georgia fan by marriage, so, but I will say, congratulations.
All right, Alexis.
I'm going to congratulate Marva Lewis. She's the Chief of Staff of Mayor Bottoms, and she is going to step down at the end of March after making good on her commitment to come on staff after running the campaign and getting a lot of good things done for her and the city. So we want to thank her for her service, and she's going to go back to the private sector. So good luck with your future there, Marva. Also, the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival had its preview party this week, and the festival is going to start after the Super Bowl this time. And the tickets go on sale January 28th. Be sure and get them. And I want to recognize Barbara Alexander. She was the widow of Cameron Alexander for 10 days, and then she passed.
Oh, my goodness.
So they're both back together again in heaven.
Oh, my goodness.
Terrible.
Thank you. Well, we're just about out of time here. I will eschew winners and losers this week. And next week is the big start of activities at the state capitol. So look for us next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.